I'm here today with the versatile, imaginative, and wonderfully talented guitarist and composer, Annam Nguyen. Welcome.
Thanks, Stefan. A pleasure to be here.
I hope I got your last name correct.
Actually, you don't pronounce the G, which
Oh,
is Nguyen, something
so
like that.
it's Nguyen. Okay.
But there's some weird Vietnamese accents that even me, I'm not, aware of. So,
Well, I worked with some people in the tech industry, and that last name is prevalent in that industry, and it was pronounced three or four different ways. So I wasn't quite sure
yeah.
how to do it. Uh,
Actually, I say Nguyen to help for the spelling all the time.
because I think if you said Nguyen to people, they would just simply put N-U-Y-N, Y-E-N.
All sorts, yeah, all sorts of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, my last name is just as bad. It's
yeah, I figured that.
Zaichkowski, so
Yeah,
and it doesn't spell like it sounds.
right.
But let's get into this. Music, I mean, I did get the chance to listen to you play, watch you play the other
Yeah.
night, and I have to ask where it started for you, where you got into music. What was your first, that first kick that got you, I need to get doing this, as opposed to some people that hear music and they just love listening and that's it. They never
Right.
get that kick that says,
So,
get
so my
into it.
my my personal background and not the band's background.
Yes, 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 yes. We're
Okay.
gonna get to the band
All
shortly, but I
right.
want to know from you because you are creative, you are a composer, and so music comes from somewhere, and that's what I want to get to first.
Right. So basically, there was a lot of music in my home. My parents would play a lot of different kinds of music, but they weren't musicians per se. And funny enough, the 1980s there was a lot of music videos playing, and that seemed a lot of fun, especially looking at those videos and people having fun. So I said, well, that seems like a a good way of living. So and I was always curious about the guitar. So eventually I started private lessons on the guitar. And obviously when you start out, you play popular music. So I went from uh, Pink Floyd, Lionel Richie, you name it, heavy metal, the blues revival with Stevie Ray Vaughan. And eventually I decided that I needed some bigger, uh, harder music to play.
Challenges. Yeah.
Challenges, that's right. So that's when jazz started, when I was around, when I was age maybe 19, 18-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so
So from then on, it's been a passion ever since.
so no other influences. You didn't first have a love of heavy metal or really hard rock. And I say this because I've interviewed others that was their start. They started in hard
Well,
rock. Their real strength came from people like Kiss. And they say,
right, right.
"Oh, this is my musical favorite. This is what drove me to do stuff." And then they drifted over and they started, well, let's do jazz because I find that's way too difficult.
Right. Well, sometimes we forget that while we have a passion for a certain style, we're still playing the other styles.
Hmm.
So even though I recognize that I had to study jazz seriously, I was still playing in the clubs and still playing a bit of Iron Maiden and some Frank Zappa and some Stevie. So those were always present in a sense.
Okay, okay. Did they influence some of the creativity that you have now? I mean, the music that you play is it is creative. It's imaginative and it's enjoyable, but I find that it doesn't stick to a specific genre of jazz. And so,
Right.
do you
Yeah,
find
true.
you can bring in influences and try them out while you're
Of
playing?
course. So a lot of times when I improvise, I have some moments where I reminisce certain styles. So you'll hear 2 seconds of Stevie Ray Vaughan, or So I try to fit them in, but I want to respect the jazz genre as much as I can. So
Right.
when I compose, also it's certain moments referring to other styles. but I'm trying to stay close to the jazz idiom as much as I can.
Have you thought of doing experimental, just breaking the surface of something that pushes beyond jazz? So kind of a rock jazz, a kind of a, a Stevie Ray jazz, so that your
Yeah, actually,
influence is a little stronger. Have you thought about that?
yeah, and definitely we have certain songs on the past albums that reflect that. We have a song called Post Bop Pawn Shop from our second album, and you have like 3 or 4 different styles in the same tune.
Hmm.
Starting with the intro is kind of influenced by David Binney and all his collective, a band called Lost Tribe, I think,
Yeah.
which was an electro rock jazz band. So yeah, certain tunes we kind of do that, mix a lot of genres. Sometimes we try to stick to one genre for each song.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
so
I
we
know.
have like a hard bop tune, a cool jazz tune,
So we'll get to the band because we are talking about AFPJ, and I'll let you explain AFPJ for the audience. But also, if you could give us where it started, what was the impetus for the band to be created, and how does it coalesce? How does it work together? Are you all creative? Do you take one direction, or does each one of you sort of drive the bus periodically?
Right. So AFGP started when me and certain friends were studying our master's degree at Université Laval in Quebec City, around 2014, let's say. And we all had that idea that we wanted to play jazz intensely, but also trying to make it more accessible for people that aren't specialized in jazz. So that was a common ground to work on. And well, I'm kind of a compulsive composer, so I always always write some stuff. And so how we worked was that I would bring in some type of tune almost finished, and I would trust their talent to fill in the blanks, let's say.
Right.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
So I noticed I'll take one in particular. You did a song that was sort of Take Five, Dave Brubeck's Take Five.
Right,
And when I was listening to it, I saw how you began and sort of worked it through in that very structured methodology that Dave Brubeck has with his jazz.
right,
But then it sort of became freeform, and your saxophonist took it off on a David Sanborn
right,
style, which blew me away because you're expecting a specific form or formula
right,
within the song that you want to listen to, and yours is, I won't call it the MMA of jazz, but you just throw things at the audience that for me, I like the way it makes you kind of stay alert and listen to the song because you kind of pick up in the places where, oh, I know. Oh, I like that. Oh,
right,
that's a nice cue. That's a nice, but it all links together. It's not like
right,
chaotic in any way, shape, or form. It's as though you're handing off. It's almost like looking at a relay race, only it's not a
right,
race. It's more music that you'll start off in a certain way, and then the drummer kicks a beat up one way or another, and everybody kind of takes a cue off of him and go, oh, we're going in that direction. And the bassist starts throwing off a couple of notes, and then the saxophonist runs. And
right.
everybody just kind of plays on that. And
Yeah,
I've noticed that with a number of your songs, that's the way you play together. And I wanted to get an understanding of your headspace around that, that
right.
all of you play a kind of a game of who's going to take the song in a direction,
That's
or do
true.
you have that structured in place already and everybody knows their part? Which way does it run with you?
So I think one of the strength of the band is all players are very good at all genres, all styles. So usually we start off with a head that sets the ambiance of the tune. The tune you're referring to is a Waltz for a Tree. So we uh, we set out like a very smooth, cool jazz ambiance and a very clear theme.
Mhm.
But when the improvisation starts, usually, yeah, we like to explore different avenues, and we feed off each other. So maybe, like you mentioned, the Sanborn moment by our great saxophonist, Thiago Ferté. Well, maybe he heard something Sanbornish in the drummers playing all of a sudden,
Hmm.
and that gave him the idea to pursue in that way. So we're always on the lookout. Maybe one of the players will send something out there and we'll pick up on it.
So it's never the same song twice. It's
No,
always,
never.
oh,
No.
really? That's phenomenal. That's so if I went to see four concerts in a row of you in different venues, even if you played the same music through the night, it would
Right.
be different, entirely different every night.
So the themes would remain much much or less constant, but the
Right.
improvisation, yeah, you might all of a sudden hear a reggae moment. We actually do that once in a while. So mind you, if I think about bands like Weather Report,
Mhm.
Miles Davis and from 60s, 70s,
Yep.
and where the improvisation moment would be very unpredictable. Yeah, sometimes.
To say the least, the
Yeah,
two bands, Miles Davis and Weather Report, they have structure to their songs. They have the songs that you recognize. But
yeah,
if you see them live in two different venues, one night after the other, you will find that the songs don't sound the same at all because,
exactly.
as you
Yeah,
do, they take cues off one another and they
yeah,
play differently depending on what happens. You know, it
yeah.
could be a sneeze in the audience that throws them into a different kind of a riff,
Could
right?
be.
And it
Yeah,
because
true.
they play both off the audience as well as off each other,
Yeah,
you'll find that those bands, you look historically through some of the videotaped live events, you'll see that they will play
that's
off an
right.
audience reaction that
Yeah,
is different from the way they played it the night before. And you seem to do similar things.
yeah.
I watch you play. I've noticed that you'll smile when the bassist does something, and I'll see you look over and you have this wicked little grin on, and then I notice the notes change, right? And the
Yeah.
other thing that you do, and I have to question you on this, I watch you play, and on occasion you close your eyes. You're sort of not looking at the guitar or at the other players. You're sort of looking off, and then you start to speak. And I don't know what you're, who or with whom or with what you are speaking, but it's as though it kind of affects how you're playing. It's like
Right.
you're talking yourself through something, and I don't know if it's encouragement to the guitar, come on, baby, you can do this, or or what it is. But take me through that. I really would love to know where your head goes when the
Well,
eyes
actually,
shuttered.
I never remember those moments. So I guess what's going through my mind is I'm trying to focus on a direction, and so okay, this is what I hear. Oh, he's playing that. So okay, let's go this way. So I guess that's just a way to focus where from what I hear where we're going, you know.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Because
It's
I've
not
had, sorry.
it's not different from maybe musicians that kind of mumble while they're playing to have a direction, like Keith Jarrett, let's say, or
Yeah.
yeah,
But in some circumstances, I've had people say that they drift off and they're not even in the venue. They're not there. Their head goes away and the music
right.
takes over them so that they don't recall. And they'll say, I don't really recall playing
Yeah, that happens to me all the time. Yeah.
it. Well, it's an interesting state of mind for it's almost like a pure musician. It's almost as if a voice through them speaks out of the instrument.
Yeah, well, I would like to think so, but actually, I find that not all jazz musicians, but a lot of them have so much training that it gives the impression that everything is falling from the sky. But actually, it's like an athlete. We have so many hours of practicing that we connect moments of music, fluently, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting thing that you bring up because other artists that I've spoken to have said they're sort of disconnected from the whole concept of the structured playing practiced music, and it's simply letting the sound flow from them out. But what you're describing is actually something that's the reverse of that, which would be so much practice that your hands already know where to go. You think of the things that you want to sort of say through the instrument, and it happens because you don't have to think about how to make that happen. You've done it so many
Yeah.
times, you know, you go, oh, I want to riff back from a flat to that E sharp, and I just want to move along and I want to tickle it, make it laugh. Oh yeah, there it is. There it is. I can do that. I can, and you're not it's not a sort of exploratory, your brain has gone off into space and the hands are just playing out, you know, some angelic music. It's real practiced music that's coming out that
Well,
looks impromptu.
well, yeah, I think they're both are complementary. But obviously, I would rather say to you that I'm a genius and the music flows through me. That would sound pretty good for an
Well, you are a
interview.
genius. The way you play, you are, even if you practice that amount of time,
So
you're still the genius with that instrument.
I guess, well, so even though there's a lot of practice, the creativeness is still there.
Yeah.
So I would think of somebody like John Coltrane, who is known to be a maniac of practicing, and still the music flows through. Yeah, so I think they're complementary.
I would probably say you're right in the sense I never thought of it from the practice perspective of allowing you not to have to worry about the music and it just comes out of you. And the reason why I say, you know, that impromptu methodology, if we take it back to someone like Dave Brubeck and you listen to his music, it is so structured.
Right,
Even the impromptu, you know what's happening next. You can tell what's happening next in the music. When you hear his iconic Take Five, it's a song that the moment it starts, you know what it is, you know what the notes are going to be, and every time you hear it is the same. There's
right,
maybe a bit of impromptu that you could play with it, but for the most part, that song is a structure into its unto it.
right. So for me, Dave Brubeck is almost like jazz chamber music in a sense.
Yes, I like that. That's a really
Yeah.
good description of that. Yes.
So if you listen to Take Five by Paul Desmond a couple of years later, like 10
Mm.
years later, there's a version, and all of a sudden the improvisation is much more elaborate.
Really?
So the same song played by Paul Desmond a couple of years later
I'm gonna write
becomes
that down. Just give me a
right,
second, because I
becomes
definitely want
much
to hear that.
more freer and creative, actually.
I'm just wondering where he would put in that freedom component. I mean, I've got some of it, but the underlying structure would have to stay the same. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the
Right,
same
the
song.
theme would be much or less the same, but the improvisation moments would
Oh,
be much
excellent, excellent.
freer. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a sort of an odd question, but I ask every once in a while to certain people that would you want a single iconic song, sort of like a Take Five, a Dave Brubeck Take Five, as your legacy? Or would you prefer that your sound is so unique that anything you play, a person hearing it on the radio would say, oh, that's Annam. That's
Right. Well,
AFJP. I know that sound. That's got to be them. It's them.
I guess
So,
the I guess the second option would be ideal for me. Yeah, but mind you, having one hit in a lifetime, that's always good. Um, so yeah, that's an interesting question. I honestly, I'd have to think about it a bit.
well, if you come up with a really good, I know that there's no way there's a single answer to it, simply because, as you said,
Right,
having a style that's recognized nationally, internationally as, oh, we know who that is. Or maybe they
right.
don't know, they don't have the name, but they say, I know that. I know that. I know who that it's there, it's on the back of my tongue. But
Yeah,
to have a song that's you. Like anybody else playing it, they say, "Oh, that's somebody doing a cover of. That's somebody doing a cover
yeah,
of."
that would be great. Yeah, that would
Yeah,
be awesome. Yeah,
but
but uh,
to say
because
one or
of
the other is
our
kind of silly.
because of our orientation, like mixing styles and everything, that causes certain problems for the media, actually. So lately, for the past decades, they prefer if you fit in one category.
Oh, labeling.
So
Yeah.
so we're honestly in one of the worst places because like our fourth album tribute to Wayne Shorter, so we play more or less our version of hard bop,
Mhm.
And if you go to the third album, which is much more of a presentation of all kinds of styles, so they have a problem like putting us on, certain categories. So,
Right. And the thing is, that shouldn't be the way music is done. I mean,
I
I know
guess,
certain
yeah,
artists, yes, they are comfortable in one lane and they love being in that lane and they go. And they're really good at that lane.
right,
Great for you. No, no shade, no nothing. That's a phenomenal thing to do. But there are other artists who have skill sets that can transcend genres and
yes,
should, because experimentation in music is the way of expressing the soul openly, as opposed to saying, I'm only going to speak. It would be like saying, I only speak in one language.
right,
Not going to
right.
express my thoughts in any other language than this. And
And
that's
I respect both views, like the purist jazz, let's say Wynton Marsalis.
mhm.
Uh, every genre has its place, but also I respect like someone we all do in the band actually, Herbie Hancock,
Yes.
with which has proven that he explores all kinds of music.
Well, exactly. And you're in, I would put you in the Herbie Hancock boat in the sense that you
Sure,
have that
we'll
skill
take it.
set to express in a multiplicity of genres. And in the same song, you can break away from one stylistic mode of jazz and bring in another one, introduce another one seamlessly in a way that makes the sound unique. And so you're
Great.
probably going to wind up fitting into the category of you may in the future, so when they stop putting boxes around people, you may in the future get one of those iconic "This Is You"
Yeah,
songs. But right now, I'm sure when people listen to you, they know it's you. They
right,
recognize that that's that stylistic methodology of melding different genres just to make a sound that sounds phenomenal. So
right. So that would be amazing for us if people think that. Yeah.
So I have to ask you though, because there's this melding of genres, where does your creativity come from? Where do you get the ideas to put certain songs together? What cues you to that? Do you listen to a whole bunch of different kind of music? Do you have them all playing at the same time and say, "Oh, I want to do some of this and some of that"?
Well, actually, because I played with so many bands in the past, I played in a authentic reggae Jamaican band in Montreal. So we ended up in Seychelles Islands playing an outdoor concert in front of 20,000 people, and
Nice.
so I never lost that passion for reggae. So I said, well, I have to try that mix, and make it fit. And so same thing goes for rock or blues or anything that I liked when I played before. So I'm always trying to find, okay, what different styles could I use for the next album?
Right.
So I'm always looking out for different mixes.
Have you thought about looking or stepping outside of your comfort zone and looking at music styles that you haven't investigated yet, that you'd try out, like
Actually,
sit in your basement and just sort of strum a bit and go, no, I don't like the sound of that at all. Or actually start it and think, oh, I'm going to have to start doing this a bit more because this sounds really, really good.
right. So in the province of Quebec, folk music is very
Yes,
present,
yes,
and so I said well, as a French Canadian, I should try and mix folk and jazz, And I think of Pat Metheny, who has more or less, I think did a good job mixing like Americana music with jazz
yes,
from certain
yes.
albums.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm still trying to find the perfect balance. I haven't, the solution hasn't come up yet. So you see, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
getting your head wrapped around the difference. Your drummer's going to have to learn to play spoons if you want
right, that could be an issue. Yeah, true.
to.
So to find the balance and respect the jazz idiom and the other style is always, it's not obvious.
Yeah, the tempos are slightly different. I know a number
Right.
of folk songs out of Quebec, believe it or not, and
Yeah.
they have a tempo that's sort of a little more upbeat,
Right.
than jazz,
Right.
but I can think of a couple of jazz songs that could probably map to some of that. I'm
I
starting to
guess
do it in
so.
my head, and I shouldn't do that. I'm starting to think about
We
that now.
actually have a very well-known band called La Bottine Souriante who
Hmm.
did a pretty good job, I think, about
I'm
mixing
melding
jazz.
jazz and folk.
Yeah, but not like improvised jazz, but like, certain aspects of jazz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm wondering maybe what you need to do is find somebody who's got an album or find a track of that kind of folk songs,
Right.
the local folk songs, and then see if you can listen to them a little faster, a little slower, and then
Right.
start thinking about the jazz components of it. Okay, let's throw in a Sanborn on top of that. Let's throw in a little Pat
Yeah.
Metheny's, effect to it because the way you play your guitar, you could easily kind of have a Pat Metheny style to the way that you play. So,
I guess so. Yeah, I studied Pat like many others. Yeah, I did. But you see on the third album, Incantations, we have a song called The Veiled Princess.
right.
And I really started listening to Iranian music day in and day out for a couple of
That's what the
months.
effect was. I was trying to figure
Yep.
that out. I was thinking, where is that coming? Where is that backgrounding music coming from? I couldn't get a grasp on it,
All
and
right.
you've just thrown it at me. Of course, that makes
Yeah,
perfect
so
sense now.
it's just doing the research at home in my basement and listening and analyzing and okay, what's the structure, what's the rhythm, and
And
so
then
that
modifying it enough that the rest of the music flows together, right?
yeah, put in a couple of weird jazz notes and
Unique jazz notes. Weird. I
right,
don't know if that one
it's
fits.
right, that's better.
But I mean, it sounds like for me, I wouldn't have placed it that way. You
Right.
describing it gives me clarity. And now the people in the audience will listen to that album, your third album, and they'll listen to that song and go, oh, there is Iranian. They're going to say Iranian hints in there. Yes, yes, yes. They'll be able to speak
Right.
to it as though they're
Right.
knowledgeable, as opposed to saying, that's a really unique sound to jazz music. What is that interesting
Yeah.
sound? Um, Somebody else I interviewed was talking about trying different ethnic sounds. Like they love tribal. And they were thinking of pulling
Right.
African tribal music out. And
Definitely.
I had suggested, have you listened to Chinese or Oriental violin? That single two or three
Exactly.
stringed instrument has this unique quality of almost sounding like singing, and
Right.
playing that in jazz would sound phenomenal. But I think that's sort of in an area that you could probably listen to and go, no, that's not us. We don't do that. We're more in the fun area. We're not in that weird, as you called it. I'm trying to think of the word that you used for Dave Brubeck. That his is
Oh,
chamber
chamber music.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's sort of a chamber music effect of jazz, and yours is more playful, more open dinner theater kind of thing. It's your music is. I like to describe music like a conversation that you come to a table and you listen to the conversation, and you're either drawn into the conversation to be a part of it, so that as an audience you feel like you're part of the music, you get entertained, you sort of
Hmm.
feel engaged by it, or the music is very hold your seats. This is the sound you're going to listen to, and very directive. It says,
Right.
this is how you're going to feel now. This is how you're going to feel now. This is how,
Hmm.
and that's not really a conversation so much as a monologue that's talking directly to you. And sometimes monologues are good. Sometimes you listen to
Oh
them,
yeah, definitely.
it
Yeah,
touches your soul.
definitely.
Your case, very playful conversation. It's a kitchen kind of, they're cooking and people are talking, and you just sit and listen, and it's not one person talking. It's a number of people saying things different times. Love it. Absolutely love that kind of feeling of being engaged by a number of people. And you have to watch everybody because they all have this unique way of communicating,
Right,
one at
that's
a
true.
time, but all together as well. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that I like. So applying things that don't apply or that don't fit into that kind of a conversation, I'd have to see how you'd manage that one. I'd have to see.
Right. Well, we don't want to reproduce perfectly, let's say Iranian music or African music.
Right,
So we still like to hang on to the I'd guess American jazz sound if we can.
right.
So that's why we wouldn't introduce a fiddle in the thing, or exotic instruments necessarily. So
Although, like a conversation, they could come in like reggae. They could step in because they can be part of that conversation because you never know. You never
Yeah,
know. And
that's
I
true. You
know
never
you're
know.
creative enough that you could probably do it and you just go, "Oh, really? Remember I said I
Yeah,
could, you shouldn't do it? Well, I did it."
right, right.
But yeah, that I can see your creative skills being able to adapt more instruments than the four of you in there. And how the question is, how would you bring them in? Would you bring in other artists? Would you bring them in as only in a recorded studio where the sound could be brought in, but live you don't play that, or you bring in a guest session artist to play that component? How would
Right.
you do that?
So that's a good way. You wanted to know what AFJP meant.
Yes.
So it's Annam's my name, Family Jazz Project. And we use the term family because actually on all albums, we always have invited guests.
Wow.
And that's like kind of something we really uh, want to do all the time. Because inviting somebody from the outside freshens your way of thinking and playing. And whenever there's something maybe exotic that we want to accentuate, we do bring in session players. For the Ville Princess, we had an excellent Montreal percussionist named Eli. Boy, his last name is something Mambuku or something, an African name.
Okay.
So he just put the right touch with the right percussions on the song, and I guess
Yeah.
like Chick Corea would do with Armando's Roomba,
Yes.
where there's a violin coming in, and
Yep.
yeah. So for certain songs, we do bring in session players. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So I have to ask, which do you prefer? Do you prefer recording studio work where you can perfect it, where you can work through it, listen, change, and alter, or do you prefer your live work where you go on stage and you just play for an audience?
I just love playing live personally. It's like essential in my life. And so I'm always trying to find some gigs and some new places to play. And Ottawa has been really good to us in the past 2 years. So eventually we'll land up in the Ottawa Jazz Fest, maybe. That would be great.
Well, you definitely
Um,
should be them. Yeah.
what I like about the studio is you can really concentrate on maximizing your performance. Uh, recording 10 times over the same song and trying to perfect it. So I guess I like both, to be honest. Yeah.
So when you were talking about the studio work and you say recording 10 times, do you do track layovers of your playing so it sounds like either a deeper, richer guitar playing or multiple guitars playing so you harmonize yourself on the tracks? Which way do you work the work
So
recording?
depending on the style that is approached, let's say we play hard bop. Uh, Old school would say you have to record it live, in a live fashion and live with your mistakes. So we try to do that as much as we can.
Yeah.
And if we play a modern style, then we'll go with the tracking and the modern ways of recording.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's never one way. So
No, no.
even your recording seems to be like the way you play live. It's just whatever's
I
there,
guess
whatever we're
so.
gonna do, let's do it.
Yeah, I guess so. Would maybe would cause a headache for the sound tech also.
Well, set expectations. You always walk in and say, okay, today we're doing just live set. We make mistakes. Too bad we're not going to re-record this thing. It's like
Right.
go and go.
So
Um,
I like Miles Davis. I think Miles Davis mentioned maybe my memory is not perfect, but he said pass 3 times. That means you're not ready. We'll come back tomorrow.
okay, so he only recorded three. He went three sets, and if he couldn't get it in three, he's going home.
Yeah, that means we're not ready and
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, that
Something
kind of
like
makes
that.
that kind
I
of
might
makes
be
sense.
wrong, but
No,
yeah,
no, no. I mean, when you
yeah,
think about it, for
yeah.
you, when you come up, when you have a song, you'll work through it. You guys practice and everything else. But when you want to actually record or play live, you walk up there and you're going, "Yeah, I can't remember. What's this piece? What's this?" You're not going to play it, are you? You're not going to go, "Yeah,
Yeah, I
let's
guess
just go
so.
impromptu." Whatever. We'll
Yeah,
just figure it out as we go.
yeah, yeah.
Because that, are you that? competent and professional, this is an odd question, to go up and play a song that you're not yet familiar with enough that you improvise it and say, we'll just take it as we go? So, in other words, you start something, you go, that wasn't quite right, but we can take it from there? Or do you simply, if you don't feel it in your gut that we can take this on stage, you won't play it, you won't improvise a song that you won't
Right.
do?
So I guess like every artist, we have our favorite standards. We have kind of a list of tunes that we're comfortable in. And also we have after 4 albums, I think we have like maybe 30-ish compositions available to us. So that's a lot of repertoire. So we
Yes.
can always manage some things. And so, yeah, I guess we would try to be comfortable on stage in every situation.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever run into a situation where you were on stage and somebody just blanked out in the middle of a
Oh yeah, that
song?
happens all the time, and
Yeah.
nobody wants to say it.
So what do you do? What do you do from there?
Well, that's when the training and comes in, because you stay relaxed, you focus, and as a group, you find a way to make it interesting, I
Oh,
guess.
okay. So here's a question that I ask almost every person that is a performer, which is stage fright. Do you get that? And if you do, how do you get by it? Because I watched you on stage, you seemed very comfortable, very relaxed, very into playing. I mean, we were not a large audience, obviously, but
Right, right.
even with a large audience, how do you respond to your internal organs going, no?
Right. Well, I think with the experience, and that goes for all styles of music, I guess. After many years of playing, that the stress factor tones down a bit. So you might have adrenaline, the first song, maybe the second one, and then you're comfortable. And maybe 10 years ago would be like four song before
Ah,
being
okay.
comfortable. And so that comes with training and experience. Mind you, in Quebec, the jazz scene is very much into the club scene. So we don't get to play like really big stages often.
Right.
So I guess if I play tomorrow in front of 10,000 people at the Montreal Jazz Fest, I think my heart would be racing a bit for a couple of songs. It doesn't really go away ever, but you
But
manage it.
you
Yeah.
manage it through the training, so you'll get into the song and you'll play the song more from a technical perspective while your heart's racing because
Right.
you can't breathe properly, but you're trying to do your best and you're getting through
That's
it. And
right.
as soon as you get less sweaty in the palms and you're starting to feel the rhythm of the songs and you guys are getting along on the stage, you kind of lose the focus of there's 10,000 people out there and it becomes
Right.
more of a it's us on stage. Let's just go. Let's just do
And
this.
that's why I envy a lot of my idols, John Scofield and Mike Stern. And so what happens is they play big stages, and they have a small room where they can just, rehearse and get focused and not talk to anybody before
Oh,
going
okay.
on.
Oh,
So when you play in clubs, there's always people, and you can't really hide from them, and you can't really turn them away, right? So you talk to a lot of people, and while you're talking, you're not focusing on the show that's coming up. So
right.
that's a different scene when you're playing clubs.
But I mean, wouldn't that make it more relaxing for you by having conversations with people? Yeah, I'm going to go up and do a gig. I'm just
I
going to
guess so. I guess
Yeah.
so. I mean,
So you've never felt after having a conversation, I don't know where I'm starting here. You haven't kind of
no, no, that never
anxious to
happened.
step up. You know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, so do you have a single individual that you could call into your head and say, this is probably the aspiration point I have. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. You
Oh
know,
boy,
I'm where I am, but that's the star I'm pointing at.
that's really a hard one, because I always have different idols depending on what stage I'm in.
Right.
So I started with Wes Montgomery, Joe Pass, and obviously I don't play like them. You know?
Right. Well, they have
Yeah,
different styles, and that's good. That's fine. You don't
right.
want to sound like them, and then they say, "Oh, he's Joe Pass."
Like I really loved in the 90s a fusion band called Tribal Tech.
Okay.
Really blow me away, but I wouldn't want to play fusion the whole night.
No.
So that's always problematic when I want to identify a singular. As a guitar player, funny enough, I'd love to be able to play like Michael Brecker.
Really?
Yeah, that would be incredible for me because I find that he really combined all types of eras of saxophone playing in one way of playing,
Yeah.
effortlessly blending different decades of jazz in one solo alone. So
But I mean, that's essentially kind of the direction I feel that you're going with the guitar, that I've noticed that you do. You'll take the style of a song and then you change it depending on one of the other players in your band
right,
taking a
right.
step up. They step forward and they go and they do something, and you'll effortlessly, sorry, flow into that. So you have the skill, and as you said, I guess it just takes more practice. You got to pull up the guitar and just start playing that kind of thing, and listen to one style of music in one ear and another one in the other ear, and
Yeah.
just transition yourself. Just sit and go, yeah, there it is. Yeah, there it
Well,
is.
mind you, if you ask me for Chinese tomorrow, that I wouldn't be ready, but
What, a week then? If I ask it in a week? You got too much on your plate, young man. You don't need, you don't need to be practicing stuff like that. Um, so have you any plans to do something completely different? Like I know you've got all the bands that you're playing with, but is there any in the back of your head you're thinking, I want to try that? And it doesn't include anything from the current state that you're in right now. Sort of
well,
a secret direction you've got in your head. I want to try that and see how well I do.
you see, funny enough, before I started this band, I did study composition at university, and classical music, symphonic music is really up there in my head. But I'd have to settle down a bit, not do gigs, and just just write in my basement for a while. But that would be a long-term, dream, I guess, to
Okay,
do
so
like
you've got a
orchestral
symphony in your
music.
head. You've got an ode or a symphony or a
Well,
living.
like I said, I'm a compulsive composer, so I have a bunch of stuff like that's you know, in a drawer somewhere that has to be worked on. So, so we'll see about that. But another thing that we're already working on right now is we're recording live shows.
Okay.
So we recorded at Diez 11 in Montreal, which is a pretty known, pretty famous jazz club. Uh, we recorded a show in Sherbrooke at a great club called Le Bocabière, and we'll be recording in Quebec City also. And we're trying to have a live album ready next year.
Oh,
So it's
fantastic.
pretty exciting for us, yeah.
Because I was about to ask you that, what's coming up for AFJP, and you
Right, so a live album,
that
yeah,
the live
it's coming
album,
up,
yeah.
yeah, in
Um,
2026.
you were talking about the composition, the more classical composition pieces, and I've talked to two artists previously that have both, one of them did actually engage, I think it was the Austrian Philharmonic that played with them in Winnipeg.
Wow.
So my question to you is there a thought to engaging with an orchestra? You compose the piece or pieces that they will play along with you as the front
Right.
of the orchestra so that you'd have an entire orchestra behind you supporting the music that you're playing.
I guess I'm a bit hesitant because it's always the question of the improvisational aspect and you
And the
know
structure, yeah.
the structure. It's always a battle between the two balance you have to find, which I find is pretty hard. Um, and listening to past orchestras trying to do that, accomplish that,
Hmm.
wasn't always, satisfied because there was always a compromise to have between the improvisational aspect and the compositional aspect. So I'm not sure about that, but a big band definitely I would love. So we'd
So
have
instead of the orchestra, you're talking big band, big jazz band, like
yeah, so we'd
brass
have
and
AFGP in the center and maybe a big band in the
yeah, yeah.
that'd be something else. Yeah.
That would be a different way of doing it. And imagine that level of improvisation. So you guys start, and the brass and the woodwind in the back, the jazz section just
Right,
goes
right.
along with you, and it all starts to flow. The amount of sound that would come from that would be
Yeah, so
advisory.
I'm a teacher at Cégep Sherbrooke. I guess it's the equivalent of college, maybe.
Yeah.
And I teach an arranging class, jazz arranging. So I'm passionate about, arranging also. So we'll see about that. That's another project, I guess.
Another drawer, another
Yeah,
drawer.
another try.
But that's a phenomenal dream to go in to be able either make an album or make up a piece of an album that is that kind of a composition because it's stylized music that you don't get enough of. People don't hear it enough, but when you
Right.
hear it and it's right, it sounds phenomenal. It's absolutely
Yes.
phenomenal. You know,
I
it's
love
like
big
having
bands. It's just financially it's so hard, and it's been since the 50s.
yeah.
I mean, it's really hard. So you're depending on loans or, you know,
Yeah.
grants and everything.
Or
So
a group
that's
of people getting together to do it all together, having,
right, right.
there
So
are a
it's
number, I've talked with a number of trumpeters and saxophonists, and, they know trombone players. They all are looking for gigs. Some of them have them, but periodically are looking to experiment to get into something else, so that they get their presence known as well as their
right,
music as a part of something. It might
right,
It's too bad there isn't a way of bringing artists together to do things like this, where they say, "Hey,
right,
I'd like to do this," and you get the interest of a number of people and say, "Why don't we do it? Why don't we get together and do this?"
right.
And then it's
And some
not
people do actually. In Montreal, you'd have a big band uh, sitting in Diezons, which is like a basement. It's like maybe 40 or 50 capacity, and you have a 20 people big band sitting there. And I'm sure that they don't make a million doing that.
right.
Uh, so it's a dedication that impresses me very much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it would be really nice to be able to say, "Hey, how would you like to get together and we do something like this? We can do it impromptu, we can throw it together." I mean, nowadays with technology, like the conversation we're having now, we're not in the same room. It would have been nicer if we'd done this in a club where it's the
Yeah,
club
definitely.
atmosphere and have this kind of a conversation.
Yeah.
But you could have different members of a big band sitting in different places on the globe and all of you playing music together.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
Be able to
Nowadays it's
experiment.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it's something that needs to happen because, like I say, artists are looking for that kind of collaborative capabilities, just to experiment, just to try, just like jam sessions
Right.
used to be back in the day. You could go to somebody's place,
Yeah.
get on the phone, "Hey man, you want to come over? We're doing a jam session," and just go at
Yeah.
it and try things out and experiment. And if you didn't like it, yeah, at the end of the day, you went, "Hey, but it was fun," and you walk
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. So actually in Sherbrooke right now, there's a big momentum. There's a jam session every Tuesday between the month of September and May, maybe. And boy, it's always packed, and there's something going on there. It's very interesting
So, do you have an audience
particularly
that's
for the youngsters that are
right?
starting in jazz. Yeah.
Okay. So do you have, like I said, do you have an audience that's listening, or is it just everybody gets together and they play, but there's no real audience there?
Oh, there's plenty of audience. It's
Oh,
jam packed, and
oh,
pretty
fantastic.
unique actually in Quebec City, right? In Quebec, the province of Quebec right now. So the club is Boquebière.
Okay.
So there's an amazing jam session every Tuesdays. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. It's almost like you're starting something that they should be having across the country. They should be doing this, have one of these in Toronto, have one of these in
Well,
Montreal.
I'm pretty sure they must all big cities have their jam sessions. I'm pretty sure they have.
I don't know about that. I
No?
don't know. a lot of artists that I speak to feel like they're on their own, doing their own thing. They get together with friends maybe, but there's
Right, right.
organized, this is your venue and all anybody who wants to show up can show up and you can play.
I know in Montreal there's upstairs that have jam sessions in the weekend, I think,
Right.
regularly. But yeah, maybe there's lesser than I thought. Yeah.
Well, especially after COVID, everybody kind of feels afraid to
Oh
get
yeah,
together.
that was something.
And that's how did that affect you guys? Did you stay connected but not connected, like you were playing but not playing, or what happened with the
Well, actually, I did. Um, um, I called the guys and I said, okay, well, I'm gonna write on some new material. We're gonna, try and stay positive while the pandemic. So that was an occasion for me to just settle down and write some new material.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So did you connect like this online and talk to each other or
Like I said before, I usually start the tunes, I yeah, and once they're pretty well constructed, then I send them out to the others, and
okay.
they add some elements afterwards. So yeah, actually, I did write a funny piece called "Dry Hands Need Creaming"
Oh yes, yes, you played that.
on the third album, referring to all the stuff we had to put on our hands
Yeah.
for the pandemic. So
But that was it. I mean, so you tried to stay connected, but that had to have been hard on a band.
oh
Moving,
yeah,
I mean, we're
we
talking,
had our doubts, like every musician on the globe, I guess. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Well, I know a few that I've spoken to, they were individuals, so they weren't part of a group. And what they did is, like you, kind of went into that writing mode. Okay, I'm just going to sit down here and write. I'm just going to write and try.
Yeah,
But, locked away in their little dungeon trying to do music. And it has to put your brain in the wrong space because you can't get out there
right.
and sense the power of where all of this thought comes from. You're stuck in your own head in a place, and it's like,
Yeah, it's not always fun. Yeah.
So it must feel so much better to be out of that situation and be back in.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just check through my list here. An odd question to ask. Is there a song, almost like an earworm, that depending on, if you're in a bad mood or you're in a kind of sort of a state of mind where you need to sort of get clarity, that pops into your head and runs. And it doesn't have to be one of your own. It can be one from any artist, any genre, anything. It could be a childhood memory from a TV show, runs in your head, and you kind of go, oh, I'm back in a happy mood because I'm listening to this song.
Oh boy, that needs that serious thinking.
I
Wow. Okay. Well,
mean, you could admit if it's Taylor Swift. You can say, yeah, I'm sorry, it's a Taylor Swift song. It just keeps coming back. I mean, I shake it off, and there I go.
well, actually, I'd have to go to the roots, like maybe AC/DC or something, like really when I
Okay.
was a teenager,
Yeah.
like
And
uh,
what song is it that kicks into your head?
boy, funny enough, there's an obscure one, I guess. There's one, Inject the Venom. I just like the groove.
Okay.
It just wakes me up like a coffee in the morning.
Well, that's a good thing. It's a
Yeah.
unique song for you that gets you going, and that's from your
Right.
from your teenager, right? When you were a
Right,
teenager.
right. It's just like reminiscing,
Yeah.
nostalgia.
Yeah. The
Oh,
good times, not the
yeah.
doing homework times or having to come back at nine
Well,
o'clock
it's
at
like
night.
you're driving in your car and there's traffic, and I just want to stay want to stay awake.
For me, it's Gypsy Kings. When I
Oh,
drive,
you see, Gypsy
I
Kings.
listen to the Gypsy Kings. I don't care what they're saying. It's just that beat and that rhythm. Of course, the police don't like that because on occasion I'll be going a little dun, 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 dun,
Right,
dun,
right. It gets you
dun, dun,
going.
and the
Right.
gas pedals down and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
pew.
Funny enough, I really like reggae to relax me. I can't get enough of Bob Marley.
Yeah,
And
that's definitely a
yeah,
beat that you can't
yeah.
get upset to. You kind
Right.
of just sort of get into the swing of that.
So
Yeah.
it's so hard to find one tune. It's impossible for me.
No, I understand. I understand completely. I know, as I say, I've talked to others that there is one, like they always go back to it in their head, that it's the one that kicks in. But some,
There's some jazz tunes from the Tale from the Hudson album, like Slings and Arrows or Midnight Voyage, you know. That would be jazz, like
yeah.
just get me really energized, you know. Yeah.
So oddly enough, is there any one piece of wisdom you've received throughout your entire life? Think all the way back to anybody saying something to you that has stuck with you and kept you going through any adversities, anything that's been going on. Somebody said this to you, and you always click back to that and go, yeah, but this holds true. It's always going to be with me. I'm always going to do that. Has anyone given you that? And can you share it with us?
Well, when I was finishing university, I was in need of guidance, you know. And so I contacted this guy named Neil Smoller, who is a Canadian composer now, I think. Um, and he studied in the same years as Pat Metheny and all those guys.
Hmm.
And he brought this knowledge back in Quebec. And so he was a very known private teacher. And so he would ask us a lot of million exercise, very hard stuff, like military, you know. And after a couple of months of working with him, he gave me a compliment. He said, "That's really wow. You did a great job." And there's this reflex in jazz musicians where you try and, you know, tone it down,
Yes.
try to be maybe sometimes too humble, you know. And so I answered, well, you know, I didn't, yeah, this could be better. And so he said, Annam, do you know how many people will bring you down when you play music? He said, all the time people will say you're bad. So when someone says to you, you did a good job, you say thanks. So I think what I'm getting to is sometimes where musicians are very hard on themselves. And I think it's good to try and balance things out and say, I did this good, I have to work on this. And so that was an eye opener for me.
But it's also the point he's making is that when you get a compliment, take it.
Yeah,
Because
right.
there's
That's it.
so many people in the world that'll bash you, especially now with social media. People
Yeah,
will have something to say. But when you get somebody who honestly and sincerely gives you a compliment,
right,
regardless of the level of the compliment, because they may say you're the best in the world,
right.
you inside will know, maybe not the world. The voice in your head will say, maybe not the world, but thank you very much. It is so appreciated that you think that of me, because it is
Yeah,
one person's perspective, as opposed to
right,
allowing that voice in your head to go, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. I'll
right.
to be there, but just from them. If it has to be, if you want to make it smaller, it is coming from one individual. It's your perspective, but I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That's right, that's right. And I think I remember I read that the great Django Reinhardt, when they'd play or record something, they would always be like, you know, screaming positive. They were never in the negative, never, never. Always celebrating what the others were playing. And
Oh, fantastic.
yeah,
Fantastic. Well, I noticed again watching you on stage, you kind of do that with your bandmates. When they do
I
something
get it.
good,
I
you have the
try to.
big smile and you'll make a comment that, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And they do the same with you. Like I've noticed your drummer will be sitting there and you'll do something and he
Yeah.
looks over at you and he gives you that smile and he's,
Well,
yeah.
mind you, they used to do that in the 40s with the big bands like Count Basie, and
Yeah.
it was very festive. And,
But I mean, when you think about it, they sort of had to do that. They had their audience that gave them the applause and everything, but really, for themselves, it was that self-appreciation. We're all doing a phenomenal job. There's no
yeah,
one person who's the big guy, and all the rest of us are
I
just
think so. Yeah, yeah,
special.
working together. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it was really nice of them to sort of share the compliment. It's kind of like, yes, the
Mm,
applause is for all of us, and it's for you right now, and it's for you right now, and then it's for you, and they go, oh, okay, thank you, appreciate
yeah,
it.
definitely.
Yeah. So, talking about appreciation, we are now going to play from the shorter way. Here is Annam and his band, AFJP, with Foot Massage. Enjoy. All right, Annam, it has been a pleasure. I really, really hope to see you again. I will listen to your music. I will continue to listen to anything new that's coming up. You have your new album that's coming next year.
Yes,
In the
yes.
summer, it's coming out?
Well, we'll see how it goes. We're finishing recording around September, so the earliest would be the better. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Then
So
I
maybe
thought you
even
were into winter. Yeah.
January 2026, maybe.
Oh, fantastic. Then I will definitely be looking for it.
Cool,
All
cool. And
right.
thanks for you and your team for the pat in the back. It's
No, you
always
deserve it.
amazing for musicians.
No, you deserve it. And as part of our sort of role is to encourage and to promote Canadian music, Canadian jazz. Even if we have an international presence, we like to show the home front everywhere. So
Cool.
it's really good to have talented Canadian musicians like yourself out there for us and
Nice.
really appreciate you.
All right. So I guess we'll see you soon.
All right. Talk to you again.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.